أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Another video this week, and today I'm going to be talking about the concept of Quran alone versus Quran and Hadith. The thesis that I'm putting forward is that this Quran and the Quran alone is sufficient for all matters regarding the deen of Islam. Nothing else is needed. That includes Hadith and Sunnah or anything else for that matter. Now, the reason why I am dedicating this video to this topic is because this is the foundation upon which my channel will proceed going forward. So bear with me now as I read some relevant Quranic verses to describe this understanding. First place I'm going to start off, being the name of the channel is the criterion, is chapter 25 verse 1. It says, "Blessed is he who sent down the discrimination upon his servant, that he might be a warner to the nations." Al-Furqan. Now, the definition is the criterion, singular, not criteria. That means the Quran and the Quran alone is the criterion for distinguishing between truth and falsehood. Nothing else is needed. Now, we find this term again in chapter 2, verse 185. It says, "The month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed, a guidance to men and clear proofs of the guidance and the criterion. Al-Huda wa Al-Furqan." Okay? So right then and there, the discussion is over. The Quran and the Quran alone is Al-Huda wa Al-Furqan. It is the guidance and the criterion. The article of perfection al in Arabic distinguishes the article of perfection that leaves nothing out. So once we have these terms of Al-Huda and Al-Furqan, we understand that all guidance relative to the deen of Islam comes through the Quran, and the Quran alone is the criterion for distinguishing truth and falsehood. Okay? Now just bear with me as I'm going through these verses to show the proof of this concept. Now, in chapter 10, verse 35, we have a very powerful and interesting verse. It says, "Say, is there any of your associate gods who guides to the truth? Say, Allah guides to the truth. Is he then who guides to the truth more worthy to be followed? Or he who finds not the way unless he is guided? What is the matter with you? How do you judge?" Now this is a rhetorical question. Obviously Allah is saying here that the person or the being that doesn't require guidance, okay, is the one who should be followed, not the person who needs guidance and doesn't know the way or the truth unless he is guided. Now who does this apply to? What is the distinction? The distinction is between Allah and everything else that exists. Does this include the Prophet Muhammad? Yes, of course it does. Now I'm going to show you the proof of that. But once I show that, that eliminates him and anyone else who requires guidance to be guided as being the independent guide. Now, in the beginning of the verse, it says, "Is there any of your associate gods who guides to the truth?" Now that's a heavy term there. So now, going forward, anyone else who rejects this principle found in 1035 and is seeking guidance from someone else other than Allah as an independent guide, then they fall into the category of associating gods with Allah. This is shirk. So we have to be careful of this, and you have to understand exactly what is being said here. You see? Now, does Muhammad, the prophet messenger, fall into the category of someone who needed to be guided? I'm saying yes, he does. We find that in chapter 93, verse 7. It says, and we found thee groping, so he showed the way. You see? And find thee groping, so he showed the way. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى. Allah found him, singular, Muhammad is being spoken of here, found him dolal. He found him astray. What you recite in the Fatiha that you don't want to be. Allah found him dolal and he guided him. So now, based on the criteria found in 1035, Muhammad cannot be an independent guide to the truth. So therefore, any of you who are out there following him or someone else other than Allah in order to be guided, you're wrong right off the bat, and you become a mushrik by doing so, because you're associating gods with Allah. Now I want you people to understand this, because this is very important here. This is some heavy material. Now, we want to know, if you didn't already get the concept already, is Allah sufficient as a guide? Allah tells us that He's the guide. Now we want to know if that guidance is sufficient. Do we need something else? Let's take a look in chapter 25, verse 31. It says, and thus we have made for every prophet an enemy from among the guilty, and sufficient is thy Lord as a guide and a helper. Look at that. Allah is sufficient as a guide and a helper. Now all these Sunnis out here want to tell us that they need something else other than Allah as a guide and a helper. So right here in this verse, Allah is condemning anyone who says that Allah is not sufficient. That means we don't need Muhammad as a guide and a helper, or anybody else as an independent guide and helper. Allah alone is sufficient as the guide and the helper. So that all that concept of hadith and sunnah goes right out the window with that verse. Now, how does Allah guide? So we now know the criteria for who can be a guide to the truth, which is Allah alone. Okay? We know that the Prophet Muhammad didn't fit that criteria. And we know that Allah is sufficient as a guide. Now we know what is the method by which He guides people. How does He guide people? Now we find that in chapter 5, verse 15 and 16. Now just bear with me as I'm flipping through these pages. It says, O people of the book, indeed our messenger has come to you, making clear to you much of that which you concealed of the book, and passing over much. Indeed there has come to you from Allah a light and a clear book, a singular light and a singular book. Now every time that term light is used in the Quran, it is used in the singular term, and every time darkness is used, it is used in the plural term. Now, Allah says in verse 16, whereby Allah guides such as follow His pleasure into the ways of peace, and brings them out of darknesses into light by His will, and guides them to the straight path. So look at that. Singular, Allah guides singular with this light and the clear book. What does He do? He guides them to the straight path, the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Okay? Now look, every day in your prayers, whether you're Quran alone, or you claim to be, or the Sunnis out there, the Shia, whatever you are, whatever your persuasion is, you're praying to Allah every day to be guided to the straight path. Right here in this verse, Allah says He guides you to the straight path, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, with the light and the clear book, the Quran and the Quran alone. So now I'm saying to myself, if Allah guides me and He's sufficient as the guide, and He guides me with this Quran alone to the straight path, why do I need anything else if I'm already on the straight path? Now, what else can we say? We often hear the claim from our Sunni brothers out there that the Quran provides the general understanding of Islam, but it doesn't provide the details. It's not detailed. Now, let's investigate this claim to see if it's true. Let's take a look in chapter 6, verse 114. What does it say? Shall I seek a judge other than Allah, when He it is who has sent down to you the book, fully detailed, mufassal, and those whom we have given the book know that it is revealed by thy Lord with truth. So be not thou of the disputers. Look at that. Allah says the Quran, this book, is fully detailed, mufassalan. So anytime you make the claim out there that the Quran is not fully detailed, this verse is testifying that you're a liar. You understand that? Now, if that wasn't enough proof for you, we have in chapter 12, verse 111, says what? Says, in their histories there is certainly a lesson for men of understanding. It is not a narrative which could be forged, but a verification of what is before it, and a detailed explanation of all things, and a guide and a mercy to a people who believe. You see? It says it is not a narrative which can be forged. The Arabic word there in the text is hadith. What does that tell you? That hadith can be forged. But this hadith, Allah's hadith, it can't be forged. Then he says, but is a verification of what is before it and a detailed explanation of all things. Tafsile kulli shay. Detailed explanation of all things. This is in terms of the deen of Islam. Everything that is necessary to be detailed is detailed in this book. And it is a guide and a mercy for people who believe. Okay? Now again, in chapter 10, verse 37, we have, and this Quran is not such as could be forged. It can't be forged. But hadith can, remember that. By those besides Allah, but it is a verification of that which is before it, and a detailed explanation of the book, of the kitab. There is no doubt in it from the Lord of the worlds. Look at that. The Quran is a detailed explanation of all things. It's fully detailed. So anytime you want to give that argument that we need something else in order to give the details, these verses right here are damning you. Now, what else can we say about the Quran? Chapter 16, verse 89, it says what? And on that day when we raise up in every people a witness against them from among themselves, and bring me as a witness against these. And we have revealed the book to thee, explaining all things, and a guidance and a mercy and good news for those who submit. So the book makes clear all things. It clarifies all things, kulli shay. Nothing is left out of that. You understand? This is in terms of the deen of Islam. This Quran makes all matters of the deen clear. So all that mess about, well, the Quran is complicated to understand. We need a scholar to tell us this. We need this book. We need fiqh books. We need hadith books, all this kind of stuff. No, Allah says the book is clear and it clarifies all things. So anytime you make that claim, the Quran is rejecting it right there. Now, what else can we say? The Quran in chapter 25, verse 33 says what? Let's look at this. And they cannot bring thee a question, but we have brought thee the truth and what? The best explanation. What's the word for explanation? Tafsir. The best tafsir. So the best tafsir is contained within this Quran. That means we don't need Ibn Kathir. We don't need this guy and this other person to look at their tafsir or what they said about this Quran. No, Allah says the Quran is the best tafsir. He brings you the truth and the best explanation. So don't give me this mess about Ibn Kathir and all these other people out there. Okay? This Quran is the best tafsir. Now, this concept of hadith and sunnah that the Sunnis out there are propagating, okay? Let's look at what Allah says in the Quran about the term hadith. Is this Quran a hadith? You see? Because these Sunnis out here are saying we have the Quran and hadith, or Quran and sunnah, okay? So I'm asking a question, is the Quran a hadith? Most of them don't even know. They're going to say no. We have the Quran and we have the hadith. But what does Allah say? He tells you that this Quran is hadith. In chapter 39, verse 23. Let's take a look at it. It says what? Allah has revealed the best announcement, a book consistent, repeating its injunctions, whereat do shudder the skins of those who fear their Lord. Then their skins and their hearts soften to Allah's remembrance. That is Allah's guidance. He guides with it, be He, singular, whom He pleases, and he whom Allah leaves in error, there is no guide for him. Allah has revealed the best hadith. What is the best hadith? This Quran is the best hadith. It's consistent, repeating its injunctions. And guess what? Allah guides with it alone, singular. This is Allah's guidance. He guides with it to the straight path alone. So once we understand that, we don't need any other hadith. But just in case you were wondering, what else does it say about hadith other than Allah's hadith? Let's take a look in chapter 45, verse 6. What does it say? It says, these are the messages of Allah, the ayat of Allah, which we recite to thee with truth. In what announcement, in what hadith will they then believe or trust after Allah and His ayat? You see, if this Quran is Allah's ayat, Allah's asking a rhetorical question to you people out there. Let's go, use your aql, think. He's asking you a rhetorical question. In what hadith after Allah and His ayat, which is this Quran, will you trust? What hadith after Allah and His ayat are you going to trust? Now, as soon as you open your mouth, if you were being slick and you thought it wasn't a rhetorical question and you want to answer Allah, you want to tell him Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, all this kind of stuff. What does Allah say in the next verse once you open your mouth? Woe to every sinful liar. Look at that. And the word there is idhm. When you open your mouth to say Bukhari, you're committing an idhm. That's shirk. Woe to every sinful liar who hears the messages of Allah recited to him, then persists in haughtiness as though he had not heard them. So announce to him a painful chastisement. Now, what is that painful chastisement? And when he comes to know of any of our messages, he takes them for a jest, for such is an abasing chastisement. Now look at this. In front of them is hell. That's the painful chastisement being announced. Hell. And that which they have earned will avail them naught, nor those whom they take for protectors besides Allah, and for them is a grievous chastisement. This is guidance. And those who discipline the messages of their Lord, for them is a painful chastisement of an evil kind. So look at that. As soon as you open your mouth to go and say Bukhari, when you're trying to answer a rhetorical question, Allah jams you by telling you, what? You're a sinful liar committing an ithm every time you open your mouth and mention Bukhari's name. You see that? And he tells me, which I'm doing right now for you on this video, to announce for you a painful chastisement. What is that painful chastisement? Hell. I think that's pretty clear. But we'll move on to chapter 31, verse 6. What does it say about the people who accept other hadith than this Quran? And of men is he who takes instead of Allah's ayat, frivolous discourse, frivolous hadith. For what? What is the purpose of that? To lead astray from Allah's path without knowledge, and to make it a mockery. For such is an abasing chastisement. Same word, chastisement, which I just announced to you people out there. Okay? The purpose of taking this frivolous hadith, like Bukhari, Muslim, and all this other stuff, is to lead people astray from Allah's path without knowledge. They don't have knowledge. Okay? And to make a mockery of this Quran. They're making a mockery of it. So that's what I'm doing here. My purpose is I'm announcing a painful chastisement to you people who want to take this other frivolous hadith. Okay? Now, look. The Sunnis want to make the claim that given to Muhammad or revealed to Muhammad was the Quran and something else. Quran wa Sunnah. Okay? Now, what is this concept of Sunnah? That they want to emulate the Prophet in the way he only ate with his right hand, and how long his beard was, and what days he fasted on, and how he wore his clothes, and all this kind of stuff. Is this really in the Quran? Is this really what Islam is? No, there's nothing like that there. The Quran alone was what was revealed to Muhammad. That was the wahi that was given to Muhammad. Now, let's see what the Quran says. I'm not just speaking off the top of my head. I'm going to back everything up with Quranic verses. You see? Let's take a look in chapter 6, verse 19. It says, say, this is what Allah is telling the messenger to say. What thing is the weightiest in testimony? So this is getting real heavy now. What's the weightiest in testimony? Say, Allah is witness between you and me, and this Quran has been revealed to me, that with it, bihi, with it singular, I may warn you and whomsoever it reaches. Do you really bear witness that there are other gods with Allah? Say, I bear not witness. Say, He is only one God, and surely I am innocent of that which you set up with him. Look at that. What was revealed to Muhammad? The Quran was revealed to him. That's the weightiest thing in testimony that he's telling you right now. That what? With it be he may warn you. Muhammad may warn you. With it singular. And whomsoever it reaches. That means at his time and for all time after that. The Quran is what is being used to warn. You understand? So there's nothing else that was wahi that was given to him. This is the wahi that was given to him. Now, if you want to attribute wahi to him with some other means, then what is Allah saying? Allah is telling him to say, do you really bear witness that there are other gods besides Allah? Look at that. Because the equivalent of doing that is bearing witness that there are other gods besides Allah. Because Allah told you He's sufficient as a guide and a helper. So once you say that this person or this other person is an independent God and you're getting it from somewhere else, that's shirk. You become a mushrik. You're setting up a God with Allah. You see? And what does the messenger say? He's told to say, I'm innocent of that which you set up. The messenger isn't responsible for this. Don't blame this on the messenger now. This ain't the messenger. This is you setting this stuff up. He's innocent of that shirk that you set up with Allah. Okay? And I'm going to cap it off and leave you folks with this last verse. In the same chapter, 6 verse 106. It says what? Follow that which is revealed to thee. Now what was revealed to him? We just went over that in 6:19, the Quran. Follow that which is revealed to thee from their Lord, thy Lord. There is no God but He. Again, telling you the same thing. And what? And turn away from the mushrikeen. Turn away from the mushrikeen. So there's two things mentioned there. Follow that which is revealed to thee from thy Lord, which is the Quran, which we saw in 6:19. There is no God but He. There is no God but Allah. And turn away from the mushrikeen. So if you don't fit those two criteria that are mentioned, if you're not following only the Quran, which was revealed to Muhammad, and you are not saying that there's only one God, guess what you are? You're a mushrik. So all the people out there who are following something else other than this Quran in terms of guidance in the deen, you become a mushrik based on this verse. You're setting up a God with Allah. You understand that? So look, I know this is hard on the mushrik. The truth, Allah says the truth is hard on the mushrik. Okay? But the purpose of this video was to lay out the Quranic case and my case for this channel going forward, by which I will be operating on. When I'm speaking about the deen of Islam, I'm coming straight from the Quranic verses. I'm letting the Quran speak for me and for the other people out there. You see? So now, you might not be happy with this video that I'm saying such harsh things, but this is Allah speaking. So let's be real about the subject. Okay? I'm warning all of you out there that this of a painful chastisement if you are not in accordance with what is being said here. You see? Now, you can go and watch the video, take notes, check all the references, look at the Arabic, do what you got to do. Okay? And come back to me and let me know what your thoughts are on this. But Allah's argument is conclusive. This is Allah's argument. This ain't mine. Okay? So anybody that has a problem with it, come with an argument to show me what I'm saying here is wrong. And if you don't have it, then you need to submit to this right here. That goes for all the Muslims, so-called Muslims out there. And all this Quran, so-called Quran alone people out there. When I told you that this Quran is fully detailed, if you're doing something in your life in terms of the deen that's not detailed in this Quran, if you can't find the details for what you're doing in this Quran, then guess what? You're following something else other than what Allah has told you. Now, in coming videos, I'm going to go into more depth about what that could include. Okay? But that's not the scope of this video. Now, I'm offering a challenge to any of you so-called Muslims out there to tell me what is wrong in this video and let's deal with it. That goes for all the so-called scholars out there in Islam. Let's get with it. What's up? I'm waiting for you. This is a challenge to you right here. Okay? Now, for all my brothers and sisters out there who are already up on this material, I hope this will be of use to it, good use to you. Please share it, subscribe to my channel, like the video, all that good stuff. And I look forward to seeing you all next week, inshallah, on Thursday. Assalamu alaikum.